All right. And welcome to our AI drop-in session. It's just a little mini session talking about AI materials and how to identify them. Ed, do you want to take over?
Sure. Thank you, Jen. So we're going to talk about artificial intelligence. When you're purchasing books, when you're reviewing your collections, what to look for as telltale signs that the material has been artificially generated. So we're going to talk about what are the main problems? It's unreliability. If a patron picks up a book and it has the wrong information, we can't always blame it on the publisher or the author. We have to have up-to-date content in our collections. So we're looking at misleading, even dangerous information in there. So if it's an AI generated book about the first one there, foraging, for example, and it tells you to forage for poison ivy, that's not going to be good for anybody. So we want to have information that's credible, and usually you're going to find that if it's a nonfiction book, it'll have references, bibliography, citations, things that you can double check. Not to say that those can't be AI generated, but it's difficult. So when we think about AI, we're thinking about really two aspects of it. It's either an individual looking to make a quick buck or an organization looking to do the same. So we want to make sure that our money is going to the right place. And the more reliable our collections can be, the better it is for us and our patrons. Um, those are the four really main ones that we see a lot of AI is the medicine, health, travel, personal finance too. So um, AI is really just it's an effort to take material that's not been cited, put it in an authoritative form, and just sell it to everybody. So here's an example. This is from the New York Times. It didn't have any um, relation to the ongoing war. So the guidebook that was AI generated um, did not let the patron know that there is a travel advisory by the State Department. Things that you should know if you're going to travel to a country, those are not in the AI generated guidebooks because, again, they're just information dredged up from the internet and packaged to sell it quickly. Here are some red flags that you'll find. Um, when we talk about all of this AI stuff coming from the internet, a foundational aspect of that is SEO, search engine optimization. So if a title has a bunch of words that you're going to find in a general Google search, maybe it has a super long subtitle, that's a tip right there that this book is probably AI generated. You do a little sleuthing, you go on the internet and you can't find any professional reviews. That's another red flag. Usually there's a whole side industry to publishing that's dedicated to reviewing materials. So if you can't find your item in there, chances are it's AI generated, or at least the scale is weighed in that direction. It could just be, a self-published work, but if there isn't a review, that's another red flag. Um, Similarly, consumer reviews are polarized. So if you go on Amazon and you find your book, and you see 5 stars, a whole bunch of 5 stars, and a whole bunch of 1 stars, and you start to look at those comments, sometimes you'll see that they're paid promotions and they're really effusive. This is the greatest book on, um, DIY surgery that you're ever going to find. And then you have other books that are saying this is quackery and you should stay away from this at all costs. The text can be generic, again, lacking details, lacking citations. If it's a nonfiction book, you're probably not going to be able to see those citations for the material itself until you receive it, but you can get a good feel for it if there's a sample and it just seems very generic. Um, so pay attention to the samples if you can. Lack of formatting or odd layouts. We'll see a couple of these examples later in the slideshow, but the formatting is very staid. There's not a lot of thought put into that. It looks like it's just coming off the printer. Um, so we'll talk about that too. And then this is a more common one, and it goes up with the no professional reviews, but the author's online presence is very limited. If you can't decide if this is a real person or not, chances are it's not. Authors, especially, it's part of their MO, it's part of their business plan to get out there in the public and show that they're interested and that they're selling their materials. So if an author doesn't have an online presence, again, chances are it's AI. You'll see independently published works, um, not necessarily AI. It could just be a self-published work. So be aware of all these other red flags. And we want to make our collections local and support local authors. So it's not necessarily an AI material, but when you're looking at that, especially nonfiction, check the reviews, check to see if the author is online. So those are some of the red flags that we're going to look more in depth at with some examples. Here's our cataloging denial form. It's a really good way, especially if you're purchasing materials, to keep AI materials out of your collections. So you can go through all this and see what the individual things are that myself and Jen are checking when we look at materials as they come in for cataloging. Um, our process is to go through these and check them off as we go, and then have another person check our work. So we can kind of like very much make sure both that it is AI and two, that we're seeing trends. So if another person comes and sees, so Jen sees what I see, she can say, hey, I saw this other item that doesn't have a publication date that can be verified. Like we should take a look at this one too. So we can kind of like build on each other's knowledge. Um, And on the reverse side, if you look through these and you see that your books have all of these things, it's a good indication that it is an authoritative source. So make sure that you look at this. We can send it out again, um, so that you just have it when you're ordering. Okay, so here's an example of a book that was on Amazon with a very long title with a bunch of SEO terms. So it's the ultimate Mediterranean diet cookbook for beginners. Unlock 2,000 days of quick and flavorful delights with budget-friendly recipes plus a 30-day meal plan for an effortless, healthy lifestyle. Usually, if you're searching for a health plan, you're going to probably type in some of those adjectives into the search bar. And that's probably what they're seeing. They're seeing Google prints out a lot of these common searches. So they're probably looking at what the most common searches are and throwing all of those key phrases into their titles. So be on the lookout for those things. Here's the author of this book. Seems pretty legitimate, right? So if you do a Google search for her, though, you'll see that there are only three results. Again, red flag, right? Usually an author is going to be at the forefront of getting their work out there and kind of making sure that people know who they are. So if there are only three results, big red flag. Here's an example of our comments. If you have a chance, definitely look into the comments. Do not buy this book. Why not? Is it just somebody with a grudge against the author, or are they publishing a competing book about Mediterranean cuisine? Um, it could be the case, but then just look through the results and see if maybe it's a review based on the content or if it's a review based on whether or not it's AI. So in that second one, you'll see not professional. If you read through that, you'll see that they quote, it says it feels like a knockoff, not professional at all. It's printed in black and white. Like the printer was low on ink. Huge red flag, right? Publishers spend a lot of money on their materials, and if you have a book that is not that way, um, there's a good chance it's AI. There are spaces and words that don't belong. There's our formatting AI red flag, duplicate recipes, misspelled words. Um, And there are examples there that you can click on and see what this reviewer is saying about the book. Here's another example. It's another cookbook. You can see the cover of the book and how it's kind of like a stock image there, nested in between a bunch of SEO terms. Um, Step-by-step guide, meal plans, nutritional insights for beginners. A lot of these are aimed towards beginners. If you look on the right-hand side, you'll see that the covers are very similar using stock imagery and SEO terms. And you can also see that a lot of these were published within the same year. Um, for this author, 14 titles were published in the month of March of 2024. That's a huge red flag. No human being alive can write 14 books in a month. So,
Except
um,
James Patterson.
except James Patterson, the exception to the rule. Um, Here is an author of epic sports stories. So you can see this is a generic stock image of athletes doing their thing here. Um, and when you go into the author bio, you see his image, which is clearly AI generated. Um, so here's an example of a reviewer Osa saying, at first I thought it was AI generated, but there are too many grammatical issues. So they're probably being a little facetious there. We took a look at this one and determined it was AI. And then here you have the other one, which is the opposite of the previous comment, which states that there are a lot of good stories in this book. Each chapter highlights a world-class athlete. So again, look at all the reviews and weigh them and see if maybe those poor reviews are based on the content of the book or whether or not it's actually um, an AI book. Here's a rundown of some of the trustworthy sources that we've discovered here in our time as librarians. So obviously the major vendors are going to be good. Baker and Taylor, Ingram, Midwest Tape, and then you have like the reviewers. So you have Library Journal, Publishers Weekly, Booklist, Kirkus. Some of these are paid reviews, but that's not going to hurt you when you're talking about AI. So they work a lot of times for the publishers. So they're going to want to make sure that it's material that's been vetted through their editorial process. They're not going to lead you towards AI. Forward Reviews, Midwest Book Review, Blue Ink Review is good for independently published works. So if you have someone who you think is a local author, you know, they're saying everything about Wisconsin, but you're just not sure, you could probably check on one of these independent review services just to see if the book has been read and reviewed. Amazon or bookshop.org, they have those lists. So make sure you're checking against those. And again, follow your gut, know your AI red flags, and that's going to help you solve 99% of these problems. We have seen a steady drop off. So when Rosa and Jen created the AI checklist, we were seeing maybe two or three a month. And now it's gone down to about one, and if that. So everyone's doing a good job just being aware of what they're purchasing. So yeah. If you have any questions, Jen and I look forward to answering those. We can always help you if you need a second eye to decide if a book is AI or not. Just let us know.
All right. I am going to stop our